Howdy, everybody. How are you? Today, we're going to talk about how to think things through. So, 5 tools for thinking things through. Tool number 1 to 4 is music. Thinking it through. Ooh, what am I gonna do? Will I buy pastrami and pickles? Or will I go and eat chicken? It's a very beautiful song about choices. So, in a nutshell, there's 5 things I'm going to recommend, and you can go kind of between them, back and forth. Kind of do them all simultaneously. But they're more or less in the order that you would start with, I guess. So, journaling, okay. 1, let it out. 2, think both ways. 3, bring in the space. 4, switch up the angles. 5, surround the doubt. So basically what that means is let it out. So get it out of your mind and onto just, so talking to yourself, talking to others as well, but say just talking to yourself and journaling. That would be the main one. Journaling, just writing it down on paper. Because then you get it out of your mind. You might write things in the flow of it after, like, writing for just whatever you're thinking. Oh, I'm thinking this, I don't know whether to do this or that, I feel confused, I feel this, I feel that, I think about this, someone said that, and then I did this. Just get it out there, like unfiltered, just a mess onto the page. And then, or if writing's not really, you find it hard to write, then you can just record yourself a voice memo, and just do that. But ideally with writing it, and then you can, rather than re-listening to it, it's a bit easier to reread it, and you can jump between the things, and so you can reread it after you've written it, and you'll be able to get a bigger, more bird's eye perspective of yourself, and like, oh, okay. But also while you're writing it, you're getting more of that perspective, like you can just kind of see yourself as a character in a story. Like you're writing it just like you read a book and there's characters talking. You're kind of seeing it out there as an object outside yourself now, rather than just, ineffably mixed in with yourself. And so you're getting it kind of into focus where you can see it. And then also, if you write 10 pages of a journal or 1 page or whatever, you can jump between the pages and you go, okay, that's kind of not really too relevant, these things. Oh, here, there's a lot of interesting things going on that page. Okay, and you can look at them and jump between them and then, interesting, and think about what it means. And then that might trigger new thoughts. And then you go write some more pages, which are kind of a distillation or elaboration or, deeper exploration of those things which you've picked up through that feedback loop of reading what you wrote. And so, yeah, just let it out, just get things flowing. You're becoming more aware of what the issues are. Whatever the choice is, it could be like, should I end a relationship? Should I start a relationship? Should I make some change to my lifestyle? Should I say something which might get me in trouble? Should I, take this opportunity? Whatever. So, yeah, let it out. And 2, think both ways. So basically, that's kind of going between both sides of the choice. Or if there's 3 options, then go all 3 options. But let's just, for simplicity's sake, we'll just say it's 2 options. And so you write, you can an easy way to do it would be get a piece of paper and draw a line down the middle, and then maybe a line through each side. So you got 4 columns. And then you kind of go pros and cons of each. So option A, like say if I take this new job, that's option A. What are the pros and cons of that? And then option B is I don't take the job. What are the pros and cons of that? Whatever the choice is. You could also do it, however you want. You could have like, put a red and green, highlighting on just a dot next to the positives or the negatives, whatever works for you, right? But the basic idea is you have the pros and cons of these two choices, and you just write out whatever you can think of, like, oh, even if it's small things that seem like irrelevant, just get it all onto paper, get it out of your head and onto paper. And you can do this mentally, but I think it's easier if you have it like out on paper, again, because more of your mind, it's hard to be thinking about something and then go like, oh yeah, what was I thinking 5 minutes ago and after that? But on paper, there's that paper trail and you can just see it. You can just jump between it. It's recorded. The memory of a sheet of paper is much better than the memory of, our minds. It's there, you just have to look at it. But yeah, and having that all out on paper, big things, small things, you might sometimes go, oh, is that you might gain insight on things just by wondering which column to put it in. Is that a good thing or a bad thing? This. And then you put it there, and it's okay if you double up things, like say, more money as a good thing for option A, and then less money is a bad thing for option B. That's fine, but you could cross them off later if you want, or you just leave them there. It's just a little bit of redundancy, but no big deal. Just to get everything, just so you're not missing anything. You have it all on paper. And then you got these long lists, and you might go, oh, these two things are basically the same idea. All right, cross out one of them, or maybe cross out both of them and write an idea which captures both of them, whatever you prefer, right? And then at the end of this, you got everything, okay, pros and cons of option A and pros and cons of option B. And then you start kind of going between them, just like letting your eyes travel around, read the good things about option A, bad things about option A, good things about option B, bad things about option B. Then maybe shift the pattern. Okay, good things about A, good things about B. Bad things about A, bad things about B. Okay, and then you can kind of do whatever you want, jump between them. You go, okay, these are the main things about A that I need to think about. I'm not totally sure. And then these are the main things about B, and you kind of jump between them, and or you go, what's the worst things about A and the worst things about B, and the best things about A and the best things about B. So you can, do that, compare them, whatever you want. It's just you've got it all on paper, and so you're doing something you can't do if it's just in your head. You've got it all on paper, and you're just jumping, letting your attention jump very quickly between these different things. I say very quickly. You might spend a few minutes just thinking about one of the things, or you could spend a few seconds and then move on to the next one. But you're kind of just building up awareness, going between these things. This is what I usually do if I have like a big choice to make. And so you do that, and you'll start to build up an awareness of like, oh, what feels better out of these two options. If it's a more difficult thing, you might, kind of through this process, think like, oh, I think this is better, and then that might change over time. Like, oh, actually, no, I think the other one's better, and you might go back and forth a bit. Or you might have a pretty clear idea of like, I think this thing is probably the best, but I'm not totally sure. And you can't quite get rid of that doubt. And so you need to keep going, clarifying it. Or you might have no idea the whole time. You might be like, I'm thinking about this, but I still have no idea which is the right thing to do. That's all fine, all of that. And so, you're just trying to build up an awareness of like the details here and how you feel about them and how they relate to each other and how they, in significance, what the arithmetic is of this decision, which would be better all in all. And neither one will be perfect, right? But which is a better choice for you? You're going to have to sacrifice something, there's opportunity cost in life, right? Either way. And then once you've been doing that, you can start to go, okay, let's, imagine let's say option A, with all this detail now clearer in my mind, let's imagine that I actually go with option A. And then I can imagine myself in that future with all these details I've just been reflecting on. How do I feel in that future? And just close your eyes and just visualize and just imagine yourself there. Imagine yourself, this is your present moment. Your get up out of bed and you go do this and you do that and you're here, and just try to imagine like it's now, you know, and like, okay, this is my life. How do I feel? And then do the same thing with option B. Go, okay, well, if I don't do that, if I go with option B, how do I feel? How is my life? And kind of compare those feelings of your imagination. And then also like, okay, let's imagine right now, I go, yeah, I'm going with option A. Let's just do that. I'll just pretend I'm doing it. Yep, done. This process is over. I'm going with option A. How do I feel? Okay, notice my feeling. I'm actually going to do this. How does it feel? Okay. And then actually, no, B. I'm going to go with B. I've made up my mind. I'm going to go with B. How do you feel? And compare the feelings. And you can also do it like, okay, the future, choosing A, how do I feel? And then the present moment, just making this choice and starting to put it into practice. How do I feel? And then the same for B, future, how do I feel? And present, how do I feel? Going with option B. And you're just, again, building up a feeling for what do you prefer? What are you more drawn to? Yeah, and so that would basically be the end point of that process, is like you just kind of, okay, I've gone into all the detail and just been developing a kind of feeling for what do I want, and then that's where your intuition kicks in and you just make a choice, right? So that would be basically the end of the whole process, is you've got that kind of two options, pros and cons. You've been thinking both ways, thinking, oh yeah, and trying to, so think like, okay, option A, imagine, there's one thing I need to mention. So like, for example, a guitar string, when you're tuning it, if you're doing it by ear, what I do anyway is say, I'll play, I know, okay, I want to tune, I've got a string and it's in tune, and then the one higher than it, the next string, I want to tune it and make it match so that you can play music with it. And so I will play the first string, I'll show you, right? Now, let's listen. Is it the same or different? And then sometimes it's hard to tell. And so do I need to sharpen it or flatten it, like make it get higher or make it get lower, or just leave it? Maybe it's perfect. And you do that for all the strings. You can also do it with harmonics. And so to figure that out, I will, sometimes it's easy and I'm just in the zone. If I'm in tune, so to speak, like I'm very zen, then it's like, it happens like immediately. I just feel where the note should be. I'll just turn the peg and it's like perfect. It's like freaky. But more often, I have to go, okay, imagine it's perfect. Okay, and then I play it, imagining that it's perfect. And that sounds like it is perfect to me right now. But then I'll go, okay, let's imagine that it's flat. It's too low. And it doesn't really work for me. I can't quite imagine that. But, and so that's kind of showing you, okay, so it's probably not flat, actually, because you're trying to see it that way. But sometimes it is flat, but if you're like, oh, I think it's right, you will hear it right. You don't hear that it's flat. So you try to, okay, let's imagine that it's flat. And I can imagine a little bit there, actually, like, oh, maybe I need to turn it up and it'll make it better. Right? And, or you can imagine, oh, maybe it's a bit sharp. Maybe it's too high. I need to go turn it down. Yeah, in pitch. And I can imagine that there as well, right? And so you kind of go between them until you figure out which one is it easiest to imagine, that it's in tune, that it's too flat, or that it's too high. Yeah. And now I think it's in tune. And so that's what we're basically doing with what I'm going to suggest to you is with the, option A or option B, go, all right, imagine that option A is the right thing to do. and just try look through the list of the things there, and just try to, and you feel it, and try to just say, yes, this is why it's the best thing to do, and why option B isn't the right thing. Just try to see that and feel it. Use your imagination just to really see why that's true. And then you flip it and do the opposite and go, try to see and feel why option B is the right thing and option A is actually wrong. And whichever one it's easier to imagine, that is the way to go, right? And so that would be the end point. Basically, you just make a decision. Even if you're not sure, hey, yeah, that's fine. Nothing's perfect. And even if you make the wrong choice, and quote unquote, it's your choice, and you've been developing your independent ability of decision making, and that will put you in good stead in the future. For if I need to change direction, it'll be easier because you've put in the work of actually taking chances and working on making a conscious choice. So that would be the end point. But there are these other things, like I say, which we can be bringing in while you're doing this. This process, like that, thinking both ways, that could take days or weeks, and you could be journaling the whole time if you want to help with that, right? But then the third thing, bring in the space. Basically, I mean mental space, mental silence, like consciousness or mindfulness, space consciousness, as Eckhart Tolle sometimes calls it. But basically, most of the time we're thinking. Our heads are full of thoughts, like words and images, basically. But through meditation, you can quiet your mind so that there's more space between and around and behind the thoughts. Kind of like you become aware of the page behind the letters. And so instead of having this novel full of all these letters everywhere, these words, the words start to thin out, some lines disappear, and now there's just 10 words scattered on the page, and then there's 5 words, and then the page is blank now. That would be like really deep mindfulness. It's like there's just no thoughts. But most people, even if you can just reduce the thinking by 50%, you'll feel like, oh my God, meditation's amazing, and yeah, it is. But anyway, and the thing is, you can practice that with your eyes closed, and that can be easier. But it's actually more important to be doing that in daily life, and just going through your life, being able to bring in mental silence, like listening to someone, instead of just being ready to say what you're going to say or thinking about your reaction, just properly be empty and let their words fill your mind. Let their words be your thoughts. Just be properly empty. That's an example of where mindfulness is very useful. Or appreciating nature, or being creative, thinking of a creative solution, emptying yourself, and then it'll kind of come in like a vacuum. It just sucks in some thoughts or some good ideas from the depths of who knows where. That's like poetry, comes out of nowhere like that. If you focus and you create the space and the right energy, then that energy will kind of gravitate a thought or some words to it, some beautiful words. Anyway, so bring in the space. It can bring in those kind of deeper thoughts and higher consciousness kind of thinking which is informed by pure consciousness, mindfulness. And so you'll be able to get better ideas about option A and option B through that, and maybe insights, things you haven't thought about. And so there's kind of a few ways to do that. One would be you just meditate twice a day, or for example, 20 minutes or 30 minutes or 5 minutes even, whatever you want. The more the better, but whatever. And just bring that into your day and just have some space. And so you're raising your energy and your vibration, and just in general while you're going through this process, that'll help you. A second way would be you actually empty your mind, or quiet it down at least, and you do this, and then when you're finished, you go and you do your journaling, or you do your thinking both ways exercise with that relaxed kind of mindset and clarified, with your mind being very sharp because you just meditated. A third way would be you actually bring in the space while you're thinking. And so you're thinking about, say, the thinking both ways, doing the pros and cons. And while you're doing that, every now and then you just take 10 seconds to just do nothing and just kind of feel your breath. If you want to go a bit deeper into how to do this, look at episode 7 of my podcast, Awakening. It talks about the basics of meditation and stuff, and then how that connects on a more cosmic level to what I understand the universe to be, and how this all works, as far as I can tell. Yeah, so basically breathing and just, paying attention to your body and your breath, anything that can anchor you into the present moment, that will, you can't be thinking and feeling your body at the same time, or maybe you can a little bit, but if you're starting this practice, it will be enough to prevent your mind from working. And but then with practice, you can be thinking while being connected to your body constantly, which seems to be the idea of what we should be doing. And so you're kind of grounded in this deep peace and clarity. But anyway, so yeah, while you're thinking this stuff through, every now and then, maybe you're like, oh, this is getting a bit intense. Your emotions are getting roused too much. You can't think very clearly. Okay, then time to take a break there and just chill out and breathe. And you can do the Wim Hof method also. It's like a breath work method that kind of floods your body with oxygen and raises the pH of your blood, and lowers inflammation and oxidative stress. And so it just kind of is very healthy for the body, but it all, in the healthy body, that includes the brain, so your mind's going to work better, but also just, you're very relaxing and raises your vibration. And so that will be good. That's another kind of method of mindfulness kind of thing. Yeah, so for those who struggle with, say, meditation, you could try the Wim Hof thing. That's like much more physical. It's just breathing. Everyone can breathe, right? And you'll get into that space. That's a good actual gateway drug into meditation, actually. But anyway, so you can be, feeling while you're spending an hour sitting down with a coffee in a garden, and you've got your book and your pen, and you're kind of, or your whatever it is, and you've got your page of A and B and the pros and cons, and you're going through it, or it's maybe just a sheet of paper or whatever. Then by, creating some space for 10 seconds or a minute or just, a few seconds, but you could be just every now and then while you're thinking it through, oh, I'm reaching some kind of intense emotions. All right, go into space just to chill yourself out. And then, you can kind of get back into thinking better, like just after that. Or also just even, just you're trying to understand things, even if there's no like emotional, blockage or intensity coming up, just every now and then you can be kind of bringing in space. And what I notice is when you do that, sometimes it kind of allows you to process things better. Like I'm trying to think, oh, which is more important, this positive thing on option A or this positive thing on option B? And then, okay, I let myself go into space consciousness for a little bit. And then when I go back to it, it's a bit clearer which one I prefer, for example. So basically, I think the root and the source of all intelligence is this pure consciousness. And so it's very useful to have analytic thinking, but if it's cut off from that, tap, that river of pure awareness, then it's not as effective. So if you can tap into that, then I think your thinking will be much clearer. So yeah, that would be the other thing just to say. So bring in space, and you could do that while journaling as well if you want, right? But all right, so we've got let it out, think both ways, bring in the space, and then shift up the angles. So a good example of that would be sleep on it, as they say, sleep on it, So you go to bed, you sleep, your brain gets restored, rejuvenated. Your brain's flooded with cerebrospinal fluid, like when you sleep, and it kind of washes out all this junk, like dead cells and damaged things and whatever. And just, so it's physically very rejuvenating, but also your dreams, it's almost like defragging a computer. It, kind of sorts things out and puts them in a file and then puts them into perspective and kind of, integrates things from short-term into long-term memory, I think, and that kind of thing. And then you wake up and, maybe you just know what you should do, or maybe it's clearer. And, people often say like, yeah, sleeping on it actually is a very good idea. And it's worked for me a lot. So that'd be one, but that's just one example where you're shifting up the angle on what you're trying to understand. But other ways would be exercise on it, go running and then see how you feel. How do you feel while you're running? How do you feel directly after you run where you're like ruined? Try to think about it, and go, how do I feel about this? And then maybe after you've recovered and you're more relaxed, how do you feel? and about what do you think and how do you feel about option A and option B. And you might go through your thinking both ways list at that time. Another thing might be drinking. Drink on it. Drink. Have a glass of wine. What do you think? Have 2 glasses of wine. What do you think now? Smoke a joint. Do some yoga. Socialize on it. Go talk to people. You could ask them for their opinions as well. Get their angles on it, or you might just not even talk to them about it, but just get some social energy and meet people and hear their stories and get outside your head a bit, and then come home and go, okay, well, or even in the middle of the party, start thinking about your thing and what do I think about it, and just constantly coming back to, in all your spare time, if you've got a big decision, all your spare time, just be constantly either bringing in space and just relaxing, or focusing your mind on this question and trying to understand it. So yeah, that'd be shifting up the angles and just getting different angles on it. And then when you come back to the pros and cons of option A and option B, this will inform that, and your journaling or whatever, you'll be able to, it might help you figure out some mysteries there. Then, so we've got let it out, think both ways, bring in the space, shift up the angles, and then through this process, you may, at some point, you probably will start to think, oh, I think I know what I should do. Then, if you never get to that, I would be surprised, but then you just need to make a choice and just, flip a coin. That's another thing, the kind of thing of how do you feel about the option A and option B, and tuning the string, imagine it's good, imagine it's bad. The thing of, if you don't know what to do, flip a coin and say, okay, heads this, tails is that. Flip a coin. And then if you're disappointed, do the opposite, That's kind of the same idea. Now you know how you feel. Oh, I'm disappointed. Why am I disappointed? I guess I want the other thing, Then if you're disappointed with that too, okay, then just choose one and just randomly go with it, But that seems unlikely that would happen. But yeah, don't think about it too much. Just do something then, right? And then adjust course as soon as you can figure it out, what you should do. But because often doing nothing is the worst option. It's there's actually 3 options. Doing nothing, it might be option C. Doing nothing is the worst option probably. Not always, but that would be an option though. If you should think about if it is, do I do A or B, or I guess I could do neither. Then you should have that in your calculations also, right? Like I say, you might have 5 options, you might have 10 options to think, but often it's 2 options. Anyway, so you will have been getting towards some sort of understanding what you should do, and at a certain point, when you feel I think, okay, I just know what I should do, and I'm ready to take the leap and take the plunge, and I'm just going to do this. Then you have surround the doubt, which is basically your mind. Part of your mind is likely to continue resisting and waging a guerrilla war, even after most of your mind has decided, no, this is option A is the right thing. I'm not going to do option B. Part of your mind, which supported option B, is probably going to keep fighting. And so you need to kind of keep it at bay. And that's doubt, saying, oh, I don't know, is it the right thing? It's look, you've done your best to understand the right thing. So doubt is no longer useful. But there's a good chance that it's going to stick around. And so you need to surround it, basically. And what I mean by that is be aware, gather and collect thoughts which explain to you, reminders, basically, why option A is good and option B is bad. Why option A is better than option B, basically. So it could be a critique of option B, or it could be something in praise of option A, whatever, or it could be both. But it's just a thought which empowers option A over option B and explains why it's better. And so each thought you can think of like that, it's like an angle on this question. Oh, I've got this doubt about, maybe this particular thing, it took me a while to think about on my list. This one thing was always very confusing, and that's one thing I'm not sure about still. Maybe you've got 3 of those kinds of things. And they're like these, guerrilla warriors for doubt, fighting for option B still. And so you surround them. Every thought, every reminder of why option A is better, that's like a soldier which you're positioning in a circle around the doubt. And so if you think, okay, well, option A is better for this reason. Also, it's better for that reason. Also, it's better for this other reason. Now you've got 3 soldiers pointing rifles at this gorilla, and they're surrounded in a circle, or swords, whatever you prefer. So they're surrounding it. And then the more angles you can think of, like, oh, another problem with B is this thing. That's pretty similar, but yeah, it's kind of different. That's another problem with it. Okay, great. Now you've got 4 soldiers surrounding it. And just surround them as much as you can. And in your mind, this will make you probably feel more empowered and confident, this image of like, oh yeah, you're surrounding these, pesky doubts. As often as need be, you can just go through them and just recite them to yourself and remember them. Say you've got, 6 reasons why, this particular thing doesn't make sense. It's actually just, it's kind of insanity. It's just a doubt, it's like, it doesn't actually make sense, but it's still, persisting in my mind. And you've got 6 reasons why it doesn't make sense. You can just, maybe every now and then you just go through the 6 reasons, remind yourself. Especially if that doubt is attacking you, then you need your defense. Okay, go through the soldiers that surround, and that's kind of like they're fighting back at that thing. Or you can even do it as many times as you want. Maybe you go through it 7 times. So you go, okay, these 6 things, just go through them like 7 times in a row. It's kind of building up this energy, this awareness of like, oh yeah, and this is right, and that's counteracting and weakening and overwhelming that doubt, yeah. Alternatively, it's possible the doubt is right and you will realize, oh my God, I'm wrong. But if that happens, it'll be like, oh, I wasn't able to get rid of the doubt, overwhelm. And eventually it would be like, okay, I realized I needed to change my mind and I needed to return to this whole process we've been talking about. And that's fine, But when you're at the end of this process, like, yep, this is my decision. I'm doing option A, for example. And then, okay, I need to surround my remaining doubts and kind of just remind myself why, that momentum needs to kind of go away. And that's, you're just dealing with the momentum of the failed contender, and you're empowering and just building up determination to go with what you've chosen, which is very important. You might be like, yeah, I'm definitely going to do this. I've made up my mind. And sometimes there's no going back. It's like, okay, yeah, I'm ending this relationship, for example, or I'm starting this relationship, where it's like, basically, if I say this, I can't really go and change my mind. It's going to totally, it won't work. Certain doors are open and then they close, or certain doors close and they're not open again. So there's a lot of situations like that, but there might be other situations where you might be aware, like, oh, actually, I could change my mind later. And you might say, yeah, there's a small chance I'll change my mind. Okay, no worries. I will return to this process if I need to, but for now, I'm going to make this choice and go ahead and boldly move forward, and see what happens. And then, go as far as you can see, and you'll see further, right? So I don't know what's going to happen 10 years from now. Who cares? You're not in 10 years from now. Just go as far as I can see 6 months ahead. Okay, great. Make plans for that and get to there, and then you'll be able to see 6 months ahead again, and you can do it again. And with practice, you'll probably be able to see further, be able to see years ahead. So yeah, I would say basically that's it. Surround the doubts, with more, try to think up more angles of like, yeah, why this thing that keeps bothering me and, like about this doubt, why is it wrong? And just try to think of many different ways of why it's wrong, why, what you've chosen, it makes sense. And then just remind yourself of that as often as you need. And that kind of deals with that nagging momentum, which tries to keep you stuck in like uncertainty. Because yeah, like I said before, you just need to go with something, right? So that's about it. I'd say this is what I'd suggest for the process of thinking things through. These are 5 tools you could use, and I hope they're useful for you. Let me know in the comments if there's if you have any questions or comments, or observations perhaps. And yeah, I wish you the best of luck with all your choices. And I now choose to end the podcast. So much love, everyone. Take care.